Welcome to another episode of the Gunman. Today we have the Winchester 74. Originally designed in 1901, manufactured all the way from 1939 to 1955, 400,000 of these suckers were made for World War II. It holds 14 rounds. Let's see what this sucker can do. The Gunman today, we're going to talk about Churchill's top secret underground army. Churchill was certainly the right man in the right place at a very critical time when he became Prime Minister of Great Britain at the onset of World War II. When the German forces occupied France just across the English Channel, he knew that a possible invasion of Great Britain was imminent. When he made his public never give in speech, he meant every single word of it.
We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
Thanks to the Lend-Lease agreement Great Britain had with the United States, the AU forces were issued a special firearm which might surprise some folks. It was the Winchester Model 74 semi-automatic, chambered in a .22 long rifle. Between the beginning of April 1940 and the end of January 1943, the government bought a total of 12,522 rifles, 660 of these being Winchester 74s. The 660 rifles were supposedly intended for use by specially trained Home Guard underground units in the event of an invasion of the UK by German forces. Their work was expected to be akin to the undertaking by any disruptive guerrilla force, harrying the enemy and assassinating senior officers or important administrators should the opportunity arise. The .22 rifle is definitely more dependable than a pitchfork when engaging an armed enemy.
What's that supposed to be? You said if we hadn't got anything else, we'd tie a carving knife to a broom handle. I didn't mean that you were to leave the broom on the end of the handle, you stupid boy.
The reasoning here was to be able to inflict a lethal wound up to 100 yards, which the .22 long rifle round is fully capable of doing. Veterans of this secretive organization confirmed the use of these rifles in various configurations and mentioned that the most likely anticipated usages would include the elimination of guard dogs and sentries, as well as the necessary and practical task of supplying fresh meat to members concealed in their secret operational bases. The organization was the brainchild of Brigadier Colin Gubbins, MC, who was one of the formative number in the Special Operations Executive, known as SOE, in 1940 and later became its executive officer. These were organized by Peter Fleming, brother of Ian Fleming, creator of James Bond, in Kent, England, under Military Research Intelligence and named the 7th Corps Observation Unit. Fleming recruited local farmers and those who knew the countryside intimately and provided them with weapons and explosives with the aim of doing as much damage as possible to invading forces. A junior officer of the Dorsetshire Regiment laterally described the purpose of these auxiliary units. The gist of it was that each county along the coast of the UK would have its private army of approximately 500 men who would live in underground hideouts, which would be stored with food, ammunition, etc. Wait for the invasion to pass over them, then emerge from their operational bases, causing havoc to the enemy's lines of communication. The auxiliaries' role when the Germans entered their area was to disappear into the secret underground bunkers, operational bases or OBs, from which, mainly at night, they would emerge to cause as much disruption to the invading force as possible. The aim was to destroy ammunition and fuel dumps, trains and railways, planes and airfields, bridges and roads, convoys, anything that might create mayhem and gain time for regular forces to regroup and prepare a conventional counterattack. They were not expected to get into a running battle with the invading army. They were highly trained, silent killers. Stealth was their method. But if a sentry blocked their way to get to the target, they were trained to dispatch them quickly. Being also armed with the Winchester 74 sniper rifles, which were equipped with the British SOE Parker Hale scope and a silencer,
wherever they come from, we'll be ready for them.
They were prepared to take out any high-ranking German officials and even British collaborators. Each patrol was made up of 6 to 8 men with enough stored rations for a fortnight. The personnel were men in reserved occupations including farmers, farm workers, gamekeepers, miners, quarrymen, and even poachers, those who had intimate knowledge of their local surroundings. Initially, the patrols dug their own OBs, but these were usually not very successful. Later, Royal Engineers were sent out to construct them. Most had a disguised vertical entrance shaft, often with a hatch that was opened using a counterweight mechanism. As well as bunks and tables, the OB would often have an Elson toilet, storage facilities, a water tank, and sometimes cooking facilities, with the smoke dispersed above the tree line through a hollow tree to reduce the likelihood of discovery. Thanks to the valiant efforts of British fighter pilots during the Battle of Britain, the German ground forces never crossed the English Channel and invaded Great Britain, so the Winchester Model 74 never saw action as an actual battle rifle, and Churchill's underground army never had to repel an invading force. Although I believe any downed German aviators captured during the Battle of Britain wouldn't have wished to argue with the business end of a Model 74 if one was at hand.